This video is intended to describe a lightblade wand named Abundance, which would be the 33rd rendition, and this is a rather high-yield, dynamic, potent variant of the construct so far. And joining me today will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map, which I'll be referencing quite a bit for this entire Crystalline Tahura dissertation. And without further ado, I'll discuss the primary blade band scaffolding, seen right here, which vaguely resembles a figure 8. Starting off with the transmutation ratio consisting of hematite and smoky quartz, which is offset all the way around this lateral band underneath this handle right here to this lateral band, to this handle as well, being now concealed by this lovely green leather, as well as the main engine section, if you would, band of transmutation once again, to simply serve as a quadrant of high yield grounding capacity for this entire section before it goes into the primary blade band ignition sequence of the abundance ratio. So once again, the hematite is a fantastic iron-based strong grounding of all excess energies through the root chakra into the earth stars and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing, in tandem with smoky quartz to support the exact same stimulation pathway to firmly ground all excess energy through the root chakra, into the earth stars, and into the earth meridian matrix for reprocessing. Hence, they've been dubbed the transmutation ratio, seen going for this entire quadrant right here for a distinct purpose of being a very effective way to, of course, ground all this excess energy into earth to make the magic real, quite simply, and also in the capacity to work as perpetual etheric dialysis or etheric Teflon to rapidly ground this energy into the earth so quickly that reprocessing of any stagnant energies be highly discouraged to maintain in the field's integrity. Particularly with all the very high yield vibration crystals in one closed loop reactive circuit, it makes a very important contingency to bring tangibility, efficiency, and, quite simply, transmutation of negativity, and once again, to make the magic real. That's why the foundational scaffolding of this whole section is discussed first as a nice preliminary. Then getting into the abundance blade band ratio, starting off with 8 clear quartz, now concealed by the thumb engagement, to be the quintessential numerological alignment to the abundance of infinity, of course, naturally. Going up here, then going into golden healer quartz, which is an essential gold-white light source alignment attunement frequency, in tandem with moss green agate to be the quintessential stabilization of the heart chakra in the water elemental green range spectrum. Then rutilated quartz to work as a massive intensification accelerant of this entire ignition sequence. Going into peridot, fantastic 3rd and 4th chakra stimulant of extreme growth, which I do equivalent it to the energy of chlorophyll or growth, how all this happens. So it's very fantastic to employ in the abundance frequency as well. Then going into golden healer quartz once again to be a nice crystalline source attunement frequency emanation. Then into the legendary lovely emerald right here. Emerald is of course the quintessential king and queen of the green ray abundance spectrums of great royal antiquity utilization. It's quite literally a precious stone of antiquity that almost all mortals have heard of due to its legendary status as a precious stone of abundance. So of course, goes into rutilated quartz, then back into moss green agate, and so on, igniting that exact sequence before it grounds back into the transmutation ratio to further ground the entire energy through the perpetual closed loop circuit. So the aspect of the abundance ratio, of course, has the aspects of being a very powerful terrestrial heart chakra abundance frequency stimulant of very high degree, with source attunement to, of course, put in the context of being perpetually, possibly, a holy grail attunement frequency emanation of abundance more than just physical matters, but abundance in the true nature of quantum inheritance, to put it theoretically. And the big aspect that's important with the moss green agate right here is with the great exaggeration of the heart chakra capacity to bring stabilization to the heart chakra's output of this abundance frequency, brings more efficiency as well as coherence to the entire output of this rather ambitious construct as the primary green ray blade band, that of the abundance ratio, like many of its siblings before it this year. So, once again, the abundance ratio grounds into the transmutation for the scaffolding to further ground and purify the emanation. Then going into this auxiliary lateral band down right here, which would be what I consider a coherence ratio. And also, quick forewarning, I'll be clearing my throat quite a bit because this is a lot to cover. So anyhow, starting off with root-tillated quartz, work as once again a massive accelerant of energy, going into purple and greenish fluorite. Fluorite is a fantastic window mental frequency alignment of coherence, particularly employed in this construct. I beg thy pardon. So the aspect of fluoride being a strong cohesion stabilizer also brings order out of chaos, quite simply, in the mineral kingdom. So having this strong coherence, clarity, focus down here brings great context to the direction of the abundance frequency as well. So then having the root-tillated quartz from the fluorite into the legendary turquoise, a favorite of millions for thousands of years for a good reason, which I will omit the entirety of the context because keeping it relevant, because this will already be a very long video to notarize completely. So turquoise is a fantastic fifth chakra stimulant of earth, fire, water, and wind. Hence, it's an ancient grandfather ally of great utilized aspects of magic throughout creation. But it also brings a great stone of wholeness frequency for clarity of what one is in truth, not who they once thought they were. To be a tremendous fortification of who indeed they are, which is another aspect of being clear and coherent with your quantum inheritance once again. So this next section I'll be discussing will be where the white leather hood will be installed, which I guess I'll discuss before I move forward into the intensive composition. So right here, once this video is notarized, this white leather hood will be installed for a function that's far more than aesthetic. So the aspect of this right here has many purposes, such as a white spectrum full rainbow color therapy resonance generator to, of course, govern the entire vibratory output of this device. B, to insulate all the excess energy so it's more contained and more focused and basically mitigates the stray leakage of the rather built out engine section, if you would, as well as a way to protect all these stones as they're being wielded by the practitioner in service to creation. And of course, D, it does serve as a nice aesthetic completion look, but it's far more than just for looks. And once the white leather is wrapped in aesthetic fashion, this Eye of Horus will be placed right there to be, of course, a classic homage to ancient Egyptian mystery school magic. And without further ado, I'll be discussing the ambitious engine section of this entire construct of abundance. So starting off down right here would be star argonite, which is utilized in what I consider a holy trinity of frequency light body generators, consisting of the star argonite, the Tibetan black quartz, as well as the seraphinite seen right here. So the aspect of star argonite makes for a fantastic full light body stimulant that works very diligently and very quickly but very gently to dismantle any stagnant patterns that be impeding the earth star through the entire chakra column to the soul star, which works as a comprehensive light body healer and generator of any stagnant patterns that are not of one's divine source blueprint. So that's why that's there, of course, and I'll be discussing the trio individually as I get to them, but it starts as a good reference to be a very dynamic, full light body healing capacity. So obviously this is pretty much a given at this point, that there's many components of this structure, like organs to this entity, that are all wire wrapped together and grounded to this primary wire seen right here to work as the main vein to generate a closed loop circuit, which of course is developed to generate significant vibrational compound interest for this entire construct. With this Lemurian quartz being the main heart of the construct right here, which makes for a fantastic quartz neutral amplification of energy, which puts us in the realms of consciousness-assisted technology, where the invocations of the wielder, through source and spirit of course, can run the currents through this and be naturally ambient and hold the charge and prayer through this entire construct. Then down here, On the other end, where the Lemurian quartz is seen right here, to be at the neutral ambient energized frequency, would be smoky celestial quartz seen right here. Smoky celestial quartz is quite the critical component to have in these very diversified high yield constructs for a very efficient, distinct purpose. So the aspect of the smoky quartz, of course, like mentioned in the transmutation ratio, makes for a fantastic grounding agent, which is obviously very important for high yield devices of theurgy. But the aspect of the celestial structure has a very special role of serving as a dimmer switch for whoever engages this construct to auto-calibrate the auric field template based on their basically factory blueprint settings of their spiritual calibration. And what that means is that the frequency of this entire closed-loop circuit is being very well regulated and kind of like a dimmer switch to make sure the frequency is at the optimum equilibrium at all times, moment to moment, any given situation. It gets quite meta and quite complex to describe coherently and, of course, rationally to the rational mind parameters, if you would. So the aspect of also why it's critical too is it works as another surge protector to ensure that the high frequency of this entire construct is always in an optimum equilibrium and efficient pattern that is always most comfortable for the recipient of this device as well as whoever is under her jurisdiction for that matter. It gets very complicated, but I'm going to keep moving on now. So this section I'll describe in one segment based on their pivotal synergy. Starting off with the agates and jaspers seen right here in this quadrant. So starting up with red jasper to be the quintessential earth energy stabilization of the root chakra. Then going into fire agate, the most stabilized fire stimulant in the mineral kingdom for the solar plexus, the sacrum, and the base chakra. Then going into the stabilization of moss green agate, like mentioned on the blade band right here. Moss green agate, once again, is a water elemental green ray stabilization of the heart chakra. Then going into blue lace agate to be the stabilization of the fifth chakra through another, once again, a water elemental correspondence. Then going into a very exotic special variety of agate named Holly Blue agate, which is actually a purple ray agate, which means it's wind elemental correspondence to stabilize the 6th and 7th chakras. So in the capacity of having the terrestrial 4 elements in one conjunction right here is developed, of course, to stabilize earth, fire, water, and wind in the perpetual circuit, which of course goes a long way for maintaining equilibrium for such a dynamic high-yield device. Then behind that right here would be jet. Jet is a classic carbon-based black-gray crystal utilized traditionally by the druids of antiquity to neutralize black magic, and much like its cousin shungite, seen right here, is a carbon-based purifier of transmutation, just like mentioned thrice at least by this point, to be a fantastic purification agent like an energetic charcoal filter, if you would, to once again transmute negativity and make it into useful positive energy. Speaking of that, so you can consider that being an old school rendition of a carbon-based black-gray crystal with magical tradition, with the new school, quite in vogue, shungite seen right here, which has become quite famous for mitigating EMF unnatural wavelengths that we contend with as modern humans for 5G, harmful radiations, things of that nature. It's become quite in vogue for that purpose. So obviously there's a few doses of shungite seen throughout here, but there's of course, why I bring that up is there's a old school and a new school application of a very similar crystal seen right here to be a very dynamic, versatile platform. Then right here would be zincite. Zincite is a very powerful fire elemental frequency of extreme potent stimulation of the lower 3 chakras, virtually unsurpassed in the mineral kingdom. It's very, very dynamically, explosively activating to the lower 3 chakras, so it's of course been employed with many stabilization and grounding contingencies to get the most out of it while really increasing the lower 3 dynamic activation of one's true self, which will be very advantageous for the very high yield, higher stimulants, which eventually we'll get to up here more of, basically. So there's zincite. Then behind the Lemurian clear quartz is prophecy stone. Prophecy stone is found in Libyan desert, actually where Libyan gold tektite is found, and it was named prophecy stone due to the gentleman who discovered it having a massive unexpected prophetic vision, which is very neat. And so the aspect that's very cool about this crystal is that it has a sumo-hematoid base, which means it has a slight iron matrix like hematite. Yet, apparently, according to science, it has metals that are not found in our terrestrial periodic table, which means it has bona fide space metal. And so what's cool about that for practical application is that the iron base makes a very strong Earth-star grounding of high-frequency extraterrestrial energy through the whole system, which works as another massive light body stimulant. And of course, a very conducive frequency generator to stimulate the 6th and 7th chakras and non-physical chakras to confer prophetic visions, hence the name of the stone. So right here, this would be pink kunzite, which is a lovely lithium-based heart chakra pink ray crystal of extreme soothing capacity, which is very nice. Then over here is its cousin, lepidolite, which is another lithium-potassium-based crystal of extreme soothing. So the two of them together make for a very powerful, soothing oasis of calm energy, which is very helpful for this very, once again, ambitious high-yield construct. To bring extreme soothing in the background. Another piece of shungite seen right here. Then right here will be the legendary famous labradorite. Labradorite is a very fantastic wind-elemental feldspar-based frequency that has become quite famous for being a very powerful psychic stimulant, a third eye stimulant, if you would, of magic. Then right here is prehnite. Prehnite is a fantastic third and fourth chakra stimulant of water and earth frequency that is also what I consider a very clean attunement to the Raphael force, the archangel of the green ray, close to source. So that little extra master healer frequency is very, very advantageous. Then right here is a bolt of black kyanite, which oftentimes I save the kyanites for last to describe, but I'll discuss it right now, of being another contingency surge protector to ensure the high frequency of this entire pitch frequency is getting a very rapid grounding rate. This is why I oftentimes save the kyanites for one dissertation, but I'll do so right now. Kyanite, for that matter, is the most rapid transfers of energy in the mineral kingdom based on their color range disposition of stimulation. So the black kyanite is the most rapid grounder into the earth as quick as possible, which is very, very well warranted with this very ambitious construct to have another surge protector contingency to ensure the energy is getting into the earth as quick as absolutely possible for many advantageous practical reasons. Then right here is fulgurite. Behind the clear quartz, fulgurite is a product of lightning striking sand. So this was a classic spirit tool utilized by shamans of antiquity to resonate with and intensify their prayers with lightning force back to Creator. So the aspect of literally having the frequency of lightning terminated here also brings a very vivid full light body activation from bottom to top with lightning force to intensify intentions with literally shamanically resonating with the power of lightning, which is very, very powerful stuff and very stimulating in its own right. And right here is black tektite, which is the product of nickel iron meteorite impacting sand, which is a very powerful extraterrestrial black ray crystal. But thank goodness it's a black ray crystal, which means the vibratory intake is from the Earth stars up to raise vibrations, once again, from the foundation up of the entire activation of the light body, which is very conducive to Kundalini activations and just raising vibrations from the base scaffolding once again. Then right here is rhodonite. Rhodonite is a fantastic pink ray crystal of psychic alignment to one's highest service to creation, which is a very, very nice outer love vibration attunement of service. So of course, even a small dose of any of these frequencies in a closed loop reactive circuit goes a very long way as it completes its sequence. And right there would be scolecite. Scolecite is a white ray crystal I denote to be the quintessential stone of divinity, to be a tremendous 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant of great soothing capacity. And it's a very, very soothing crown stimulant of oneness self to a divine mind to conscious self in that capacity. So it's a very, very well-utilized crystal in many endeavors. And by golly, that actually would be the entire engine section. I felt that'd take much longer to describe. Anyway, pardon my inner monologue commentary. So like mentioned, the transportation ratio, now concealed by this lovely green leather, is actually running up the side of this wooden oak core, going up here, all the way to the thumb engagement, which I'll be discussing right now, with the assistance of this rock to hold it straight for me. So right here is what, of course, was implied to be said, the thumb engagement to engage the entirety of the construct like so. Starting up with the foundation of Libyan gold tektite, which is also seen on the blade face on both sides in symmetrical as possible fashion. Libyan gold tektite is a very, very legendary, amazing gold ray crystal that was utilized by the pharaohs of antiquity for a very good reason. Libyan gold tektite is a very powerful solar plexus and sacrum stimulant, which makes it a cardinal fire energy stimulant, yet also has a gold ray of illumination full light body activator, which we could denote it to being a storm full resonance spectrum generator. So the aspect of Libyan gold tektite being utilized by the Magi, god kings, pharaohs, or even the mystery schools in general of antiquity of Egypt is very, very powerful magical connotation alignment to the Egyptian ways of the Jediism, basically, to put it whimsically. So the aspect of Libyan gold tektite makes for a very powerful manifestation agent, particularly in dharmic acceleration to aligning to one's highest divine appointed path and to make it real, quite simply. And a very powerful psychic shield for that matter as well, and a fortifier of one's courage and enthusiasm to follow their dharmic path of why they're born. And its rather famous green ray cousin, moldavite, seen right here, even in a small dose, which I employ with great reverence, and once again, many contingencies in mind to mitigate the timeline whiplash that's inherent with this crystal. So the aspect of moldavite, seen right here, I would consider to be, pardon me, I'm clearing my throat because obviously, like I said, a lot to talk about. So the aspect of moldavite makes for a very, very powerful green ray heart chakra dharmic acceleration, virtually unrivaled in the mineral kingdom. Hence, it's become quite famous or infamous for its magical capacities. So moldavite, seen right here, is the quintessential heart chakra alignment of dramatic magical hurricane force to one's dharmic blueprint quantum inheritance, which is very taxing on the false self matrix of who one thinks they are, not who they are in truth in connection to creation. Hence, it's also been denoted to be a stone of the Holy Grail. But the aspect of moldavite employed here is, of course, employs a great amount of synchronicity, magic, inner and outer development simultaneously, very rapid transition frequency. But like I mentioned, there's been many different stabilization and grounding points to get a very cohesive, efficient riding the lightning, to put it lightly, with this guy, as a little whimsical joke. Then there's the moldavite. Then right here, next to the moldavite, is actually a 2 clear quartz with a authentic white raw diamond in between it to give that full sovereign diamond power. So diamond is a 10 out of 10 the hardness scale, which is a carbon-based crystal of very intense full light body activation as well of the white spectrum, hitting all octaves obviously. And so the diamond right there brings a very powerful sovereign energization of the entire construct, which has quite the famous metaphysical lore associated with it, but I'll go ahead and keep on cruising to consolidate the time of this video. But there's diamond. Then next to that is zircon. Zircon is a very, very powerful full light body stimulant as well that activates the entire chakra column in unison with great dramatic power, which of course also works as a massive accelerant to whatever frequencies are next to it. So it's a terminated sequence on the thumb engagement next to the moldavite, the diamond, then the tanzanite. Tanzanite is the quintessential heart-mind coherence generator, in my humble opinion, of 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th chakra stimulation that makes a very cohesive heart-mind coherence interlap, which is obviously very advantageous for the spiritual adept to be able to have the clear resonance of their heart's connection to creation. Very advantageous. Then the blade band surrounding this entire thumb engagement would consist of clear quartz to be a neutral accelerant of the energy, going into lapis lazuli, another classic crystal of antiquity of magic utilization, particularly concerning Egyptian mystery schools, as a fantastic window-mental 5th and 6th chakra stimulant of one's highest truth made conscious and coherent in that capacity as well. As well as, of course, a psychic stimulant of the cities or psychic gifts, whatnot. Classic stone of antiquity for a very good reason. Clear quartz into the classic and legendary amethyst. Amethyst is the quintessential violet ray crystal of 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulation of divine transmutation. So that would just be the entire comprehensive thumb engagement seen right here in one closed-loop reactive circuit. And so next I'll be discussing the blade facings seen right here, which are as symmetrical as absolutely possible for very harmonious, even vibration, obviously, for the comprehensive structure. Starting off with malachite. Malachite is a fantastic fire elemental green ray copper-based crystal, which has a fantastically powerful 3rd and 4th chakra stimulation of very activating and very yang in nature of dynamic activation and leadership capacities, as well as a fantastic psychic protector in that matter, as well as just a self-fortifier of one's heart's will, basically. Then right here would be rose quartz slabs on both sides, embossed with the flower of life, which is a classic sacred geometric symbol that's literally found in all aspects of creation, which is a very nice touch for resonance of that geometric symbol. Then having the rose quartz being a classic pink ray crystal of high heart love activation with divine love makes for a very nice combination. Then right here would be sunstone, which I consider to be the yang to the green ray yin of the abundance ratio so far. So in all these variations of the abundance construct, sunstone has been employed to be just that, just to be the output yang of the positive spectrum of what could be considered enlightened masculine energy to stimulate the sacrum and solar plexus to bring very high intensive positive good vibrations and blessings to all outward actions, which of course reciprocates the intake of the abundance to be a fantastic way to feel good, good things happen. That's the quantum void reacting. So the aspect of having a blessed cornucopia of enthusiasm and confidence and all those things of just, once again, leadership capacity to be the output, like I said, is a very, very advantageous thing. Also, just it's a fun, sunny energizer of good vibrations. So this right here would be seraphinite. So seraphinite, like mentioned earlier, is one of the full light body master healers I employ in a trinity, which I'm actually going back to Tibetan black quartz, which I omitted intentionally for exactly this moment. So seraphinite, Tibetan black quartz, and star argonite all work synergistically together to be a tremendous full light body stimulant from bottom to top to address any chakric stagnation or disruption in the continuity from bottom to top and work in a perfect holy trinity synergy, if you would, to dismantle any patterns of dis-ease in all the varieties of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies. So that's why those three are always mentioned in one shot to be a tremendous highlight. So seraphinite is a green ray crystal named after the seraphim archangels, which makes very fantastic full Kundalini activation and light body I am calm alignment as well. And then Tibetan black quartz, like I already mentioned a few times, is specifically from Tibet, perhaps one of the most unbroken discipline lineages of spiritual practice in the earth we can record and say we as an indisputable truth. So having that Tibetan Om resonant frequency is very advantageous as well to bring further source attunement alignment through the entire light bond activation. Then, moving back on to Libyan gold tektite, seen as a trinity circuit with the thumb engagement as well as right here, to be the comprehensive massive boost, of course, like I mentioned before, of the Libyan gold's energy of very powerful fire-ish and storm overtone acclamation. which of course intensifies the entire frequency pitch as a whole. Then to smooth out a little bit towards the end of the construct would be Larimar employed in both sides. Larimar is a very fantastic 5th and 6th chakra stimulant of both water and fire, paradoxically, to bring extreme harmonious balance between those two polarities and bring extreme soothing calm, particularly in the aspect of one's speaking vocation, which is very advantageous for those in a teaching position, basically in service to creation, to have a nice 5th smooth chakra to amplify and smooth out the voice for reception is very advantageous. Everybody has to talk. Then next to this would be chaurite. Chaurite is a lovely purple ray dharmic accelerant that, just like traditional violet ray crystals, has a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant, yet the inclusions of chaurite have dendric as well as white calcite, which have a more dynamic stimulation to the energy body. So the black dendric actually has a very powerful grounding capacity to actually take this entire violet ray spectrum and firmly ground it through the earth stars into the earth fluid processing, as well as the calcite works as a very powerful clearing capacity. So I would actually have to say this is my favorite violet ray crystal based on its very dynamic stimulation for efficiency of, quite simply, divine attunement grounding through, independent of requiring a contingency like a transmutation ratio for that matter. So that's a very fantastic dharmic accelerant in its own right. At the very tip right here would be a faceted Herkimer diamond that I actually acquired myself at the Herkimer Diamond Mine when I was last there from the gift shop. I didn't facet this, but it was quite the amazing story. But anyway, Herkimer diamond is the cleanest and highest frequency of the clear quartz spectrum that is very vibrant to the 6th, 7th non-physical chakras. And also, like quartz, specifically, Herkimer diamond is a massive accelerant of all other frequencies as well. And that's why that's been employed next to the lovely specimen of aquamarine. Aquamarine is the barrel cousin to emerald of the cardinal water 4th and 5th chakra stimulation at the very end of this construct, to be a very powerful oceanic 4th and 5th chakra conduction, which is very compatible with the emerald, obviously of the same vibrational spectrum of the beryl family. That is oftentimes an 8.5 out of 10, the hardness scale, which means it has a relatively dense atomical structure to stimulate that vibration. Then above that would be a little piece of pyrite with a little bit of magnetite in the structure, which would technically be healer's gold, to be a further directional frequency of the current, which is kind of the yang association of hematite. Is the directional frequency of pyrite is very effective for actually directing frequency very effectively into form. Anyway, and so before I discuss the selenites, the kyanites, and the focalizers, I'll be discussing the oak core this entire construct is actually based upon, which comes from my buddy right here at the tip of my pen in my backyard, who drops oak on the ground for me intermittently when I require it. And so the entirety of oak is a very dense, strong atomical structure, which is once again very advantageous for a very ambitious, high-yield, diverse, light-body generator to have a nice carbon-based resonance range of the oak wood, being a very strengthening vibration for the entirety of the core of this device. Of both cores seen right here, holding the entire scaffolding of this device, seen like so. Okay, so this section I oftentimes save for last intentionally, discussing the selenites that have been sanded to be adhered to the core of the oak. So selenite by itself is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant back to one's godhead, particularly. So it makes for a very fantastic higher self, conscious self gateway blueprint, which of course is very advantageous for the spiritual adept, to put it pretty obviously, which is very nice. Then the aspect of the high-frequency induction also serves a fantastic transmutation of any stagnancies from top to bottom that are, of course, not of one's divine alignment. So that's a very fantastic master healer by itself, but this is where it always shines, and why I saved this last in these videos is for this purpose. So in this closed-up comprehensive circuit of me discussing this entire construct for nearly 35 minutes now, it has a critical feature. So all these frequencies terminated together, they run through this entire closed-loop circuit. then the aspect of the selenite works with the entire crystalline group mentioned thus far to purify all of these crystals and to amplify or intensify all of these crystals, but perhaps most importantly, bring equilibrium and harmonization and cohesion to the entire dynamic range of crystals, which is perhaps the most important part. So once again, as a triumphant trifecta of the purpose of selenite, besides its own master healing capacities, is to once again amplify, harmonize, and purify the entire crystalline structure to make it a truly dynamic, effective spirit tool. Next, I'll be discussing the kyanites seen right here. So the four spectrums of kyanite have their own governance range that work fantastic together. But before I discuss the individual nodes of the kyanite, kyanite is the most rapid transfers of energy in the mineral kingdom. Hence, their employment is quite crucial to encourage making the magic real. So black kyanite, once again, like mentioned down here, is a very fantastic grounding rapidly. So, of course, I'll be moving my pen whimsically fast to do my best to illustrate the rapid transference of these structures. Black kyanite grounds energy so quickly through the Earth stars is the most rapid calibration of constant grounding as much as possible. Hence, it's quite critical for many features of, efficiency, as always. So that'd be the black kyanite grounding through the Earth stars. Then the orange kyanite is a very fantastic sacrum stimulant to the highest capacity of one's divine creations, being very, very rapidly in charge, and charged up also. Then right here would be green kyanite to be a fantastic heart chakra stimulant of the highest calibration in a lot of capacities. Then the blue kyanite is a very fantastic third eye stimulant of the right and left hemispheres to bring whole brain coherence, aka the awakened third eye, to have the right and left hemispheres bridge the neural patterns of efficiency working together, mitigates cross friction that oftentimes can obstruct the third eye's proper divine factory blueprint setting. So the four together of the black, the orange, the green, and the blue make for the most rapid dynamic transfers of energy as quick as absolute possible, which can also serve as another layer of etheric Teflon to reroute and regulate energies so quickly with constant calibration flux that'd be very discouraged for any stagnant energies to stick to the field from top to bottom in all capacities. So a very, very effective purpose, as well as, of course, being a very effective way to take the focused energy of this entire construct and rapidly transfer, for example, my good buddy, the sacred one-legged right here, to take the entire energy pitch and give it a focus of transferability. Then, speaking of that, I'll be discussing the focalizers next. So right here is titanium auric quartz, which is the product of modern man alchemy, of pressure coating titanium on quartz with the power of titanium makes for very vivid rainbow light body activation that's very strengthening to the entire auric field as well. Hence, it's been employed behind the Lemurian quartz for the focalizers to further intensify the directional focus of the more neutrally ambient, clear Lemurian quartz focus of the device of the focalizers. So the aspect that's quite critical here too is that having this entire figure eight scaffolding seen like so, it also works to direct the entirety of this construct while it's being, of course, grounded into the primary wire seen right here to once again give the directional focus of the device a nice clear trajectory of transference. So that would be nearly the entire crystalline structure of abundance number 33 mentioned thus far, which has been quite the ambitious project. But I'll make sure that I did not omit anything before I sign off. I believe that is everything. So in summary, this rather ambitious abundance platform in obviously a wand format has been a very high yield variation to be a very powerful rendition for someone very serious in serving creation. So, obviously, after this nearly 40 minutes, it's quite dynamic in its range and scope of extreme summation of the entire light body from top to bottom. There's not a single chakra node that's not been addressed for this very diverse construct. But the big aspect of This being the 33rd rendition of a very successful litter or a family of light texts so far, makes it a very powerful, comprehensive capstone of the current era of this very well-performing construct with exactly this ignition sequence of the abundance ratio. So obviously the aspect of having a very diversified tool for virtually endless application, I would say, for the practitioner, would have a very powerful, obvious designation of being a rather ambitious, exotic exaggeration of the abundance spectrum, and to be a very dynamic, diverse, multidimensional healing tool. Well, I guess that would kind of sum up the whole thing. Pretty conducive to the purpose. Just making one last run to make sure I didn't forget anything. So that would be it. This would be abundance number 33, and 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.